We Could Have Tea Together, Chapter 1. A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction written and narrated by Mira Rose. Artwork by Yuki on Pixiv. You can find a link to Yuki in the description box below. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Mira. I write and narrate Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction in an audiobook format for you to enjoy whether you're reading along, cleaning your room, or just relaxing, getting stuff done. Now then, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date on the latest fanfictions, including this story. Leave a like to support the YouTube algorithm, and bonus points if you leave a comment. If you don't know what to comment, put MariChat Reunion. Now then, please enjoy We Could Have Tea Together, Chapter 1. Marinette Duping Chang, 24 years of age. Oh, it was raining again. How lovely. Marinette reached a hand out her window with a smile. The plants needed a good drink, and thankfully, the sky blessed her wishes. It was an after effect of being Ladybug that hadn't worn off yet, although it was far weaker than in her superhero days. Well, no point in reminiscing. Days like today always made her think of her partner, but she was too busy to do so today. Come to think of it, today marked 7 years. It was hard to ignore, but Marinette blocked the news of the 7th anniversary since Ladybug and Cat Noir took down Hawkmoth, because it cost her the love of her life. Time didn't heal a sting like that. Time couldn't heal the hurt she'd seen Cat Noir suffer through. How long had it been since she'd seen him anyway? 4 years? 5? Too long, yet not long enough. She'd vowed to never become Ladybug ever again after seeing the damage Craving the Miraculous did to a man in the nation. No, she'd never let anyone know her Miraculous still existed, no matter how the world was threatened. It wasn't worth it. Instead, she opened a store that combined her two favorite things: flowers and fashion. She'd become a wedding planner, famous for incorporating fresh flowers into her design with a motto of ever-blooming love. She thought the idea to be cute, and the rest of Paris did too, apparently. She'd paid off her storefront in the first 3 years instead of dragging it out over the 15-year loan she'd thought she'd barely be able to afford when she first bought the place. The bell chimed, despite the sign reading closed, and Marinette looked up to tell whomever ventured in that she was in the middle of a banquet preparation and couldn't service anyone today. But she didn't. She didn't because Cat Noir, slick with rain, stumbled in and tucked himself under a display case with such haste he could be mistaken for a street rat trying to avoid coppers. It all clicked together when she heard shouts from outside and some girls ran into her store. "Is he here?" one girl yelled. "He has to be, I saw him," another called. "Stop lying, he turned the corner," called a third. "Am not, he really came in." "Ladies," Marinette said, cutting them off, "I don't know what we're so worked up about today, but my shop is closed." "But have you seen—" the first began. "Someone barging into my shop, screaming and ignoring the closed sign on the door?" Marinette crossed her arms. "I think I'm looking at them." One of the girls muttered something as the other two blushed and headed out the door, slamming it so hard the shelves beside it clattered. Ugh, bother. She waited, staring out her window until the girls turned the corner. "You can come out now," she said, not looking down at the man who hid centimeters from her feet under the display. He padded out, dragging his weight with his palms, and stood up to brush himself off. "Thanks," Cat Noir said. "I owe you one." "I never expected to see you here, Cat Noir. Unless There's some pretty girl you plan on marrying. Unless there's some pretty girl you plan on marrying? What? He looked up, eyes widened, and started to stutter. Married? Me? Why would you think? Well, I am a wedding planner, and this is my shop. Why else would you be here? She tilted her head to the side, smirking just enough to let him know it was a tease. And you're as darling as ever, Marinette, Kat said, relaxing into a boyish grin. Curse those dimples. And your actions are on par with how I remember you, Cat Noir. He flashed a sarcastic scowl before smiling. Thank you for the assist. Truly, you helped me out of a tight spot. Why not just de-transform and blend in with the crowd? She asked, turning her attention back to her bouquet. Not enough time? Trust me, that'd be the less preferred option, believe it or not. Huh. She couldn't fathom that, but didn't question it. Have you been well? As well as I can, all things considered. Marinette froze at the answer, hesitating before picking up another flower. Should she press it? You mean, ever since Ladybug? She didn't finish the question. Retired? Yes. She didn't know how to respond to that. Well, it sounds like you've been getting along fine without her. Is that what it looks like? Marinette felt herself grow hot and hoped he wouldn't notice her neck turning red. I'm sure she had her reasons. Me too. She heard his footsteps behind her and the clatter of an object. He must be looking at the wares on the shelf. She wouldn't have left if she didn't think you could handle it. What, the job or her absence? Oh, she'd cornered herself. Both? He didn't say anything in response. So, this is what you're up to these days? He asked, changing the subject. It's a peaceful life. Looks like it. What about you? Have you found your happiness? I'm still searching, he said, accompanied by the clack of him returning whatever it was he picked up. I hope you find it. Me too. Marinette found herself torn between asking him to leave and inviting him for a cup of tea. Which would make her feel better? Which would hurt her more? She couldn't bring herself to so much as sneak a glance his way. Dating anyone? Why do you ask? I only work with clients I love. If you were, I might have some business. Oh? His wandering footsteps stopped. You love me. Enough to share a cup of tea with, at least. Was that an invitation? Whoops. Even on a day like today? The question raised her head so naturally, despite her efforts trying to convince herself to look at him over the last few minutes. He stared out the window, watching the rain instead of looking at whom he asked the question to. Days like today are perfect for blueberry tea, don't you think? She asked, setting down her snippers. Only if you'll have me. His smile warmed something she locked away long ago, and she knew she played a dangerous game. I'll put the kettle on. Marinette allowed herself to relax as the smell of peaches wafted through the store. While she'd meant to make something with blueberries, a more sunshine-like tisane called to her when she pulled out her teaspoon to measure out leaves. Between the peach pieces dried with sugar and bits of apricot, the sweetness in the air always put her at ease, so she went with her just peachy blend instead, That smells lovely, Cat said, walking up behind her. Thank you. It'll need a few more minutes. Where do you keep your snacks? My father dropped off some Madeleines earlier today. I'm not sure how many are left, but they should be on the front counter. She grabbed her little blue teapot and reached for mugs before smiling to herself. No, there was a much better option when it came to serving Cat Noir tea. She'd meant to gift them to him long ago, but now the double-walled kitten paw cups from years past no longer stared at her in guilt. He'd never known she planned on giving this to him as Ladybug, so he wouldn't link them to her now. Marinette grabbed the 2 pink-tinged cups and went on her way. He showed great excitement for the cups. His childlike demeanor alone was enough to brighten her day, if not her week. Oh, how she'd missed him. Retiring Ladybug was for the better, but losing him wasn't a consequence she wanted. Her younger self thought it was best to disappear without anyone knowing who she was, but now, each pulse running its course through her veins pounded a beat that set her back on track to tell him. Cat, Marinette began, wrapping her palms around her cup. So, Was this it? Was she about to tell him? After all the years and angst of keeping her identity to herself, she'd share it with him over a cup of tea? Yes. He looked up from reading the Tizan canister's ingredients, their previous topic of conversation. I'm happy you stopped in, she said into a smile, letting her face melt into what she hoped looked like nostalgia instead of disappointment in herself. Me too, he said, setting down the canister and reaching across the table to grasp her hand. Thank you for having me. She squeezed his hand, a cacophony of shame and love swirling inside her chest. Stop by any time, Cat Noir. Even when the door says closed, it'll always be open for you. He smiled, and for a moment, she could have sworn she saw a glimmer of melancholy on his face. Thank you, Marinette. They continued the small talk she wouldn't trade for the world as they cleaned up together. With so many things to say, she may as well get the kettle going again, but she didn't. No, unfortunately, she had to be an adult and get her work done. Cat, she said, feeling teenage-like butterflies in her stomach as he grasped the door handle to leave, as though she were performing at a school play or at her first job interview. Yes? The way he glanced over his shoulder, back arched ever so slightly, could take an honest woman out even if it didn't give her bouts of nostalgia. If Ladybug came back, what would you do? The curl of his knuckles against the trim didn't go unnoticed, although she didn't bring attention to it. I'd hold her close, he said, looking at the ground without lowering his chin. I'd hold her close and kiss her head. And then? He shrugged, letting his hand relax and fall to his side. I don't know. I've asked myself that so many times, but after today, I might just take a page from your book. From my book? She repeated. If I ever see Ladybug again, I hope we could have tea together. Marinette felt her chest swell, her heart staging an attack on her tear ducts. That sounds nice. Cat Noir sighed, then turned to the handle. It was lovely to see you again, Marinette. Stay safe. You are always a delight, she replied. A smile that wasn't quite genuine, but not entirely fake, politely posed on her face. Goodbye, Cat Noir. Her heart won the battle as she watched him leave, and she turned to her shelves to hide her brimming eyes. Oh, how lovely this unexpected afternoon was, and it made her grievances all the sweeter. "Marinette?" Tiki asked, crawling out from her hiding spot between champagne flutes and bohemian macrame tassels. "Hey, little buck," Marinette said, grabbing a handkerchief to dab away the waterworks. "You okay?" "Yeah." She took a sharp breath to clear her nose. Yeah. Actually, I'm better than I've been in a long time." "Are you sure?" Tiki landed on her shoulder, reaching out to hug her cheek. "I got to see someone I love and hear a bit about his life. How could this be anything but cause for celebration?" "Do you think he'll come back?" "To see Marinette?" She dabbed her handkerchief another time against her now ruined concealer. "Well, I sure hope so." "You did say he could come back." "That I did." She chuckled, a tear falling from the action. "He even made your Madelines." "I know! How could you?" Tiki joined in her laughter, crossing her arms and scrunching her lips before losing herself in giggles. Her heart lightened as the rain poured outside, and Marinette put the kettle on a second time to brew herself another cup, now with one more thing to remind her of a precious memory. If Cat Noir ever came back, she'd make sure to have him try more than this peach tea. Next time, if there were a next time, she'd make sure he wouldn't leave until she'd picked out the perfect tea for both of them. Thank you so much for listening. Chapter 2 is on the way. In the meantime, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. If you don't know what to comment, put Just Peachy. That's the name of the tea that they have. It's a David's tea for those of you who are curious and live in either Canada, the States, or the UK. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye!